Imagine being the biggest background NPC alive. Then out of nowhere, you get transferred to a school packed with rich, gorgeous girls who refuse to let you live in peace. Bro didn't ask for a harem, but the plot already signed him up. Our story kicks off at an elite academy made exclusively for daughters of insanely wealthy families. Standing on stage is our unlucky main character, Kamito Kagurazaka, getting hit with a non-stop barrage of questions from dozens of curious girls who want to know what the outside world is like. But before we get there, let's rewind a bit. Earlier that day, Kamito was doing what every professional student does, trying to sleep through class. Suddenly, his friend wakes him up and asks him to grab some tea. Seems normal enough, until a squad of giant bodyguards storms into the classroom, grabs Kamito like he's the final piece of discounted furniture, throws him into a van, and kidnaps him in broad daylight. And somehow, that isn't even the weirdest part. During the ride, these absolute units start flexing their muscles like they're filming a bodybuilding commercial. Kamito just sits there wondering if he got kidnapped by the military, or a gym membership. Eventually, the van stops in front of a luxurious girls' academy, where a maid named Kojo welcomes him and politely escorts him inside like this whole kidnapping thing is perfectly normal. She explains that this prestigious academy is only for daughters of the richest and most influential families. Soon after, Kamito meets the headmistress, who reveals the academy's biggest problem. Since these girls have spent their entire lives isolated from normal society, they graduate knowing almost nothing about ordinary people, especially men. So after searching everywhere for the most average, harmless, completely non-threatening guy they could find, they somehow ended up with Kamito. Congratulations, bro, you're officially the human tutorial mode. Naturally, Kamito refuses the offer, but the headmistress immediately changes the mood by threatening to permanently remove him, and a few important accessories, to protect the student's purity. Yeah, suddenly this doesn't feel like a choice anymore. With his future bloodline hanging in the balance, Kamito reluctantly accepts the job. As if things weren't already embarrassing enough, he learns that his own friend somehow convinced everyone at the academy that Kamito has a strange obsession with muscles. Bro really got sabotaged before the first day even started. Kamito quickly tries to clear up the misunderstanding, only to accidentally confess that he's actually obsessed with thighs instead. Great recovery, genius. Now every girl in the room is looking at him like he's about to write a PhD thesis on legs. Honestly, some of you watching would have fumbled even harder. After joining the class, Kamito is introduced to the elegant class representative, Reiko. Right in the middle of everyone's introductions, Kamito's phone suddenly starts ringing. The girls immediately freeze. Not because it's loud, because they've literally never seen a smartphone before. To them, this thing might as well be alien technology. Later, when Kamito simply returns something that belonged to Reiko, she treats it like the greatest act of kindness in human history. The girls organize a full-on formal thank you ceremony complete with chocolates, a heartfelt letter, and enough nervous energy to make Reiko nearly pass out. Thankfully, Kamito catches her before she hits the floor. Good reflexes, because the plot definitely wasn't letting her faceplant there. A few moments later, another student named Aika suddenly pulls Kamito outside and tries to kiss him. Apparently, she heard a rumor that kissing a commoner makes your wishes come true. Whoever started that rumor deserves jail time. Kamito somehow convinces her it's completely fake. Then, because he's incapable of letting a good prank go to waste, he tells her that spinning around 3 times and barking like a dog is the real way to make wishes come true. And she actually believes him. She spins, she barks, she commits to the bit harder than half the internet. Even Kamito can't believe that actually worked. The other girls explain that Aika has trouble making friends because she's painfully honest and doesn't really understand how to connect with people. Realizing what she just did, she gets completely embarrassed and runs away before anyone can tease her. Later that day, Kojo shows Kamito his new room. To make him feel comfortable, they've recreated it to look exactly like his old bedroom. Well, almost exactly, because the walls are still covered with his collection of thigh posters. Bro's digital footprint betrayed him in real life. Panicking over the horrible first impression, Kamito starts ripping every poster off the walls before anyone walks in and thinks he's even weirder than he already looks. Mission failed though, that reputation is already beyond saving. Kojo then informs Kamito that she'll be serving as his personal maid, but she immediately makes one thing crystal clear. She's only doing it because it was ordered, not because she likes him. Relax, bro. She had to make sure your ego didn't level up. As soon as Kojo leaves, Aika quietly sneaks into Kamito's room. She's still a little annoyed about getting tricked earlier, but instead of arguing, she becomes completely fascinated by all the ordinary items scattered around his room. Everything looks brand new to her because she's never experienced a normal life outside the academy. And after looking around for a while, she finally gathers the courage to reveal the real reason she came. The real reason Aika approached Kamito finally comes out. More than anything, she wants to experience a normal teenage life. She dreams of making real friends, having fun after school, and becoming popular like an ordinary high school girl. Kamito tells her that making friends isn't some secret life hack. You don't need magic, you just need to be yourself. Simple advice. Now whether people actually like the real you, that's a different story. Some of y'all already know that struggle. To introduce her to commoner life, Kamito starts with the most important lesson of all, video games. Forget textbooks. This is real education. The two decide to create their own commoners club, where Kamito will teach Aika everything she wants to know about life outside the academy. Later that day, Kamito stands on stage as the academy's special guest while dozens of students bombard him with endless questions about everyday life. To them, even the most ordinary things sound fascinating. Watching everyone get so excited over basic commoner stories makes Aika smile for the first time in a while. The next morning, Kamito wakes up to find Kojo standing right beside his bed. As his assigned personal maid, she's expected to handle everything, from waking him up to helping him get dressed. Talk about premium customer service. Unfortunately, her facial expression says she'd rather be anywhere else. Before heading to class, Kojo suggests using a hidden path through the dormitory instead of the main hallway. Confused, Kamito asks why. Kojo explains that after yesterday's chaos, it's probably smarter if the academy's only male student avoids attracting even more attention. Honestly, good luck with that. The guy's existence alone is today's biggest news headline. The moment Kamito steps outside his room, he runs into Aika. She happily shouts his name loud enough for half the academy to hear, instantly ruining Kojo's entire stealth plan. Mission failed in under 5 seconds. Aika proudly explains that she always uses the back entrance because popular people avoid crowded hallways. That's actually pretty confident for someone who literally came here asking how to make friends. Since today is the first official meeting of the Commoners Club, Kamito notices both of their maids secretly following behind them like undercover security guards who forgot what undercover means. Kamito suggests making a deal. He'll teach Aika everything about ordinary life, and in return, she'll teach him how things work inside this bizarre academy. Aika is surprised he picked her instead of the elegant class representative, Reiko. Kamito honestly admits that Reiko is so graceful and refined that talking to her makes him nervous. The second those words leave his mouth, Aika punches him out of pure embarrassment. Bro unlocked violence by giving someone a compliment. As they reach the classroom, Reiko politely invites Kamito to an after-school welcome party. The invitation somehow makes Aika unexpectedly jealous. Oh, looks like someone's downloading feelings without realizing it. As classes continue, Kamito quickly becomes one of the most popular students in school. Not because he's especially cool, but because he's literally the only ordinary boy any of the girls have ever met. When the competition is zero, even average becomes legendary. Later, Kamito asks Reiko why Aika is always by herself. Reiko explains that Aika has always kept her distance from everyone else. Kamito doesn't blame anyone for it. Instead, he encourages the girls to give Aika a chance and try getting to know her better. After school, everyone gathers for Kamito's welcome party. The table is filled with expensive gourmet dishes that probably cost more than Kamito's monthly allowance. Meanwhile, this man looks at all that luxury and orders instant ramen. Peak commoner behavior. The girls stare at the cup noodles like Kamito just revealed a legendary national treasure. After he pours in the hot water and lets everyone have a taste, they're completely shocked that something so cheap can actually taste this good. Congratulations, cup noodles just achieved 5-star status. Meanwhile, Aika quietly eats by herself. She admits it's always been easier to stay alone than to keep trying to fit in with everyone else. Soon, the party moves on to a formal dance. Kamito immediately admits he has absolutely no idea what he's doing. Thankfully, Reiko offers to teach him. Unfortunately, Kamito dances like a shopping cart with one broken wheel. His moves are so unbelievably awkward that everyone watching assumes it's some new trendy dance from the outside world. Fake it till you make it, or until rich people start copying you. After nearly making Reiko fall over, the two accidentally end the dance in a dramatic final pose. The audience explodes into applause. They think it was all intentional. Sometimes confidence really is just surviving your own mistakes. Later that evening, Aika reminds Kamito that he still owes her another lesson about commoner culture. Looking around his room, Kamito starts introducing her to even more ordinary things that she's never seen before. Instead of showing her a textbook, Kamito hands Aika a manga. Now here's the problem. Aika is so innocent that she believes every single thing she reads is completely real. Yep, she actually convinces herself that normal teenagers can unlock psychic powers if they train hard enough. Anime logic has officially escaped the screen. Seeing the perfect chance to mess with her, Kamito decides to play along. He acts like a mysterious master and pretends to teach her how to awaken her hidden abilities. Aika follows every instruction with total confidence. She proudly uses her new psychic powers on Kamito while he dramatically reacts like it's actually working. Bro deserves an Oscar for this performance. Things are going great until Aika suddenly leans in and tries to kiss him. At that exact moment, Kamito immediately drops the joke. Even he realizes the prank has gone way too far. He finally explains that manga is fictional entertainment, not an instruction manual for real life. Sorry, Aika, the power of friendship is real. The power of anime psychic abilities, not so much. That evening, Reiko finishes taking a bath and is about to leave. Right as Kamito accidentally walks in, the two freeze like their internet connection just died. After a painfully awkward few few seconds, Kamito apologizes as fast as humanly possible and sprints away before making things even worse. Reiko, however, takes the accident incredibly seriously. Instead of simply calling it a misunderstanding, she somehow jumps straight to, "Guess we'll have to get married." Girl skipped about 1,000 steps there. The following day, Reiko can't focus on anything. She's completely lost in her own imagination, daydreaming about marrying Kamito after finally realizing she's fallen in love with him. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the academy, two students visit the school's legendary genius inventor, Hakuwa. Calling her eccentric would be an understatement. She has an endless list of personal rules. She refuses to dress herself, and she'll only eat meals prepared exactly the way she wants on that particular day. Basically, living with her comes bundled with a 300-page instruction manual. The next morning, Kamito is once again woken up by Kojo as part of his daily routine. He also receives a message from his family. Apparently, thanks to the academy generously rewarding them for letting him enroll, they've suddenly become surprisingly wealthy. They even had a private hot spring installed at home. Bro got kidnapped, and his parents somehow unlocked the luxury DLC. Although Kamito is slowly getting used to life at the academy, one thing still makes him uncomfortable. No matter where he goes, the girls keep staring at him. Every hallway feels like he's the only panda at the zoo. While taking a short break in the school garden, Kamito notices a mysterious girl standing in front of a statue, completely focused on writing complicated mathematical equations. Curious, he walks over to see what she's doing. Then, without warning, she casually starts taking off her clothes. Apparently, that's how she thinks more clearly. Yeah, don't ask. 4. Anime just animated. Just then, Kamito hears other students getting closer. Knowing this scene would be impossible to explain, he quickly picks the girl up and rushes her back to her room before anyone catches them together. For once, he's actually trying to avoid getting framed. After bringing the mysterious girl back safely, Kamito asks why she keeps running around half-dressed. She casually admits she doesn't actually know how to put on her own clothes, so Kamito ends up helping her get dressed. The girl introduces herself as Hakuwa, a brilliant student whose intelligence is only matched by how absent-minded she is. When Kamito asks whether she remembers seeing him during the academy's orientation, Hakuwa honestly says she doesn't. She was too busy working inside her laboratory to notice something as minor as the academy's only male student. A few moments later, Hakuwa's stomach starts growling, so Kamito decides to cook her a bowl of ramen. At first, she's suspicious of this unfamiliar food, but after one bite, she's completely hooked. Never underestimate instant noodles. They've already conquered one academy. The second Hakuwa finishes eating, she immediately falls asleep on the spot. Kamito tries waking her up, but instead, she suddenly jumps to her feet after getting a burst of inspiration. She starts covering the room with insanely complicated equations, and once again forgets she's supposed to be wearing clothes. Unfortunately, this is exactly when Aika walks into the room. The first thing she sees is Kamito standing there, holding Hakuwa's underwear, while Hakuwa is only half-dressed beside him. Yeah, there isn't a single explanation on Earth that's going to save him now. From Aika's perspective, the situation looks as suspicious as humanly possible. Later, Kamito escorts Hakuwa back to her laboratory and gently encourages her to at least learn how to dress herself. Inside the lab, Hakuwa's mate explains that Hakuwa is a world-famous genius. Her mathematical discoveries are so valuable that every equation she writes has to be photographed immediately, before she forgets it herself. When the maid starts preparing lunch, Kamito casually mentions that he's already fed Hakuwa earlier. Everyone is left completely stunned, because Hakuwa normally refuses to eat anything that isn't prepared under her incredibly strict conditions. Hakuwa follows Kamito to the door. Then, in a quiet voice, she gently grabs his sleeve and asks him to stay a little longer. Kamito smiles and promises that she can visit him whenever she wants before saying goodbye. Watching the whole interaction, the maids immediately switch into gossip mode. Even though Hakuwa looks like a little kid, she's 14 years old, so they quietly decide to keep a very close eye on Kamito, just in case. Poor guy. At this point, breathing near a girl is enough to start a new rumor. The next day, Kamito is chatting with Aika and Reiko during flower arranging class. Reiko kindly offers to help him improve his arrangement. But before they can continue, another unusual student makes her entrance. Meet Karen, a tall swordswoman who carries a katana everywhere like she's permanently waiting for the final boss battle. Everything is going perfectly fine, until Karen spots a tiny little insect. Instantly, she panics. Instead of calmly shooing it away like a normal person, she starts wildly swinging her sword across the classroom. Kamito immediately jumps out of the way before becoming today's biology lesson. Realizing how ridiculous she looks, Karen quickly tries to save her pride. She claims she wasn't attacking the bug, she was attacking Kamito because he's the real insect. That's certainly one way to avoid admitting you're scared of bugs. What follows is complete chaos. Karen's sword slices through everyone's uniforms with unbelievable precision, without actually hurting a single person. Seconds later, half the classroom is standing around in their underwear. Average anime school day. Kamito's clothes don't survive either. Trying to stop Karen before someone loses more than just their dignity, he manages to knock the sword out of her hands. Unfortunately, one last slash finishes the job. Now both Kamito and Karen are completely exposed. Congratulations, nobody won this battle. After After everything finally calms down, Karen asks if every commoner is as strong as Kamito. Kamito casually shrugs and says he's one of the weakest. Bro really chose psychological damage. Karen's confidence immediately crashes harder than the stock market. Determined to prove herself, she challenges Kamito to another duel, and gets defeated just as easily. At this point, Karen completely gives up. Instead of seeing Kamito as a rival, she declares herself his apprentice. She vows to stay by his side until she's finally strong enough to defeat him one day. Congratulations, Kamito. You accidentally recruited another follower without even trying. Naturally, rumors spread across the academy at lightning speed. Everyone starts talking about how Kamito somehow convinced the school's strongest swordswoman to follow him around. Bro isn't collecting Pokemon, he's collecting heroines. Back in his room, Aika excitedly announces her newest strategy for becoming popular. She wants to throw a party for the entire class. Kamito likes the idea, but he points out they'll need plenty of phones if they want to invite everyone. Almost as if she was waiting for her cue, Hakuwa suddenly appears. She casually says she'll just build the phones herself, because apparently making smartphones is a casual afternoon hobby for her. Watching how naturally Hakuwa talks with Kamito makes Aika unexpectedly jealous. Before anyone can process that, Karen also walks in. She reminds Kamito that she's staying close to him as part of her sword training. At this point, his room is starting to look less like a bedroom, and more like a waiting room for the main heroine auditions. Finally, Aika blurts out the question that's been bothering her. Why is Kamito always so nice to everyone, except her? Kamito smirks, then tells her it's because she acts exactly like a classic tsundere. Aika instantly denies everything. Absolutely not. No way. Impossible. Which, ironically, is the most tsundere response she could have given. Completely flustered, she hurriedly announces that it's time for another Commoners Club meeting, then kicks every other girl out of the room. After running outside to scream into the void from pure embarrassment, she finally calms down and comes back. Right then, a delivery arrives. Inside are all the phones Hakuwa promised to make. Yeah, she actually built them, because apparently being a genius means side quests take 5 minutes. Grateful for everyone's help, Aika suggests celebrating with a group photo. Even Karen, who keeps pretending she's too serious for things like this, quietly admits she'd like to be in the picture too. The next day, Reiko politely invites Kamito to a tea party in her room. Before he can even answer, Aika instantly grabs his arm. She reminds him that they already have plans for another Commoners Club meeting. Kamito points out that today's meeting isn't exactly urgent, but Aika refuses to let go. She clings to his arm like she's protecting the last limited edition collectible on Earth. In the end, Kamito apologizes to Reiko and leaves together with Aika. While Kamito and Aika walk away together, Reiko and the other girls quietly watch from a distance. The more they look, the more they start wondering if those two have gotten a lot closer than anyone realized. And you know how school rumors work. Someone smiles at you once. By lunch, you're apparently planning a wedding. Meanwhile, Kamito and Aika continue planning their Commoners Club event. Kamito suggests serving mako, a popular after-school snack that ordinary students love to eat. Aika instantly falls in love with the idea. Simple food really is undefeated. Elsewhere, Reiko can't stop thinking about Kamito and Aika. The image of them leaving together keeps replaying in her head. Then one of her friends casually jokes that maybe they're already dating. That single sentence lands like a critical hit. Reiko immediately gets overwhelmed with jealousy, bursts into tears, and runs out of the room. Emotional damage. A little later, Kamito notices Reiko's friend looking upset. Curious about what happened, he decides to investigate. He visits Reiko, but she refuses to talk at first. Eventually, she admits that she's feeling terrible after arguing with her friend. Realizing he's partly responsible for the misunderstanding, Kamito decides to cheer her up. Meanwhile, back in his room, Aika casually reveals that she secretly followed them and listened to their entire conversation. Girl unlocked the spy DLC. Although she originally wanted the party to make herself more popular, she reluctantly agrees to change the plan and turn it into an event that helps Reiko make up with everyone. When Kamito praises her for being so kind, Aika immediately gets flustered. Instead of saying thank you, she headbutts him, because apparently that's her love language. Then she runs away before her embarrassment reaches maximum level. Finally, the day of the party arrives. Kamito gathers the entire class for a special Commoners Club experience. To everyone's surprise, Reiko shows up wearing casual clothes instead of her usual elegant academy outfit. Seeing her dress like an ordinary student catch everyone completely off guard. As part of the event, Reiko demonstrates how smartphones work. The girls are amazed when they discover that a phone has secretly been placed inside every single desk. Hakuwa really wasn't kidding when she said she'd make enough for everyone. Afterward, Reiko sincerely apologizes to all of her classmates, especially the friend she argued with. The misunderstanding is finally resolved. To celebrate, everyone starts taking selfies together. Within minutes, the girls become completely addicted to taking pictures. Bro introduced smartphones. Now the academy has officially entered the selfie era. The party ends up being a huge success. Later, Reiko thanks Kamito for helping repair her friendship. She gathers her courage. It looks like she's finally about to confess her feelings. Then Kamito unknowingly drops the worst possible impossible sentence. He explains that the entire idea for the party came from Aika. Oops. Reiko immediately misunderstands what he means. She assumes Kamito cares more about Aika than anyone else. Heartbroken, she runs away in tears before Kamito even realizes what happened. Not long afterward, Reiko confronts Aika inside Kamito's room. What starts as a simple argument quickly turns into a full-scale verbal battle. The insults start flying, the jealousy starts showing, and suddenly the room feels like the season finale. Kamito finally tries to step in and stop them, only to get smacked directly in the face by a flying pillow. Poor guy became friendly fire. The ridiculous accident is so unexpected that both girls immediately stop arguing. Sometimes, violence really does solve anime problems. Later that day, Aika opens up about her past. She explains that she wasn't always like this. When she was in elementary school, she became seriously ill. After recovering, her personality changed completely. Ever since then, she's viewed the world differently from everyone else. Even so, she says she doesn't really mind arguing with Reiko anymore. If she gets to spend time with Kamito playing games and reading manga, she's happy. Before the conversation can continue, Karen and Hakuwa suddenly arrive. Both want to officially join the Commoners Club. Not long after that, Reiko shows up as well and asks if she can become a member too. Aika clearly isn't excited about sharing her special club with everyone else, but after a little hesitation, she finally agrees. Of course, it doesn't take long before everyone starts arguing again. Meanwhile, Hakuwa completely ignores the chaos. She suddenly gets another flash of inspiration and begins covering the room with complicated equations like she's decorating the walls. At that exact moment, Kojo walks in carrying a giant pair of scissors. She takes one look at the disaster inside the room, and instantly assumes Kamito is responsible. Honestly, at this point she doesn't even need evidence anymore. Panicking, Kamito blurts out the first excuse that comes to mind. He loudly announces that he's only interested in muscular men. The room goes completely silent. Everyone is confused, including Kamito himself. Bro really sacrificed his own reputation just to survive another misunderstanding. The following day, we finally meet Kamito's friend Hanako. She's not just his friend, she's also a hugely popular idol and a successful voice actress. After finishing a radio show, Hanako checks a message from Kamito. To her surprise, he says that life at the academy is actually going much better than he ever expected. Back at the academy, Kamito wakes up, only to find Hakuwa already waiting inside his room. No knocking, no warning. Personal space has officially left the chat. Hakuwa cheerfully announces that she's hungry, so the two decide to make potato pancakes together. While they're cooking, Kamito praises her for helping out for about 5 seconds, because right in the middle of preparing lunch, Hakuwa suddenly gets another burst of inspiration. She immediately abandons the frying pan, grabs a marker, and starts covering the walls with complicated mathematical equations again. Bro's trying to cook, she's trying to solve the universe. Eventually, lunch is finally ready. The two quietly enjoy their meal together while passing the time with riddles. Hakuwa keeps searching for incredibly complicated scientific answers. Meanwhile, Kamito solves every riddle using nothing but basic common sense. The world's greatest genius gets defeated by the power of just think about it. Hakuwa is completely amazed. Later, Kamito walks her back to her laboratory. Once again, Hakuwa's maids notice how attached she's becoming to him. Before saying goodbye, Hakuwa quietly asks if they can spend more time together. Kamito smiles and promises they'll meet again soon. After returning to his room, Kamito notices something sitting on his bed. A stuffed doll. And it looks suspiciously like him. The second he realizes Hakuwa made it herself, he can't help feeling a little embarrassed. That's honestly kind of adorable. Later that evening, Reiko, Karen, and Aika gather for tea. Naturally, the topic quickly shifts to Hakuwa. The three girls all notice that she practically never leaves Kamito's side anymore. It makes them wonder if the little genius has started developing feelings for the Academy's one and only commoner. After thinking about it, Reiko, Aika, and Karen all realizes something awkward. They're jealous, not of Hakuwa herself, but of how much attention Kamito gives her. Instead of turning it into another rivalry, though, they agree to try becoming Hakuwa's friends instead. Honestly, character development. We love to see it. The next time Hakuwa visits Kamito's room, he's not there. Rather than sending her away, the girls invite her to spend time with them instead. Karen encourages Hakuwa to enjoy herself even without Kamito around. Unfortunately, Hakuwa is completely absorbed in reading manga. She's so focused that she barely even notices the tea and snacks waiting on the table. Relatable. Some of you ignore your family exactly like this when a new chapter drops. Eventually, they bring out Hakuwa's favorite food. That finally gets her attention. Food wins again. As the afternoon goes on, Hakuwa occasionally gets another flash of inspiration, and immediately starts writing complicated mathematical formulas all over the walls. By this point, everyone just accepts it as normal. When Hakuwa's maid finally arrives to pick her up, Hakuwa happily tells her that she spent the whole day hanging out with her friends. Hearing those words makes everyone smile. Before leaving, Hakuwa asks the girls one of Kamito's favorite riddles. To everyone's surprise, Aika solves it correctly. Hakuwa looks genuinely impressed. Congratulations, she just earned the approval of the Academy's biggest genius. The following day, Kamito is relaxing in his room while playing a dating game. The main heroine just happens to be voiced by his childhood friend, Hanako. Curious, Aika decides to give the game a try. What starts as simple curiosity quickly turns into complete addiction. 5 minutes later, she's emotionally invested in fictional characters. We've all been there. Right then, Kamito gets summoned to the headmistress's office, leaving Aika behind with the game. While Kamito is gone, Reiko stops by his room. The two girls notice that nearly every manga lying around features a different heroine on the cover. After looking through the collection, they jokingly decide that Kamito must really love romance stories. Honestly, they're not exactly wrong. As they're chatting, one of them accidentally spills a fizzy drink all over both of them. Now they're scrambling to clean themselves up. At the exact moment Kamito walks back into the room. Of course, perfect timing. From Kamito's point of view, the scene looks incredibly suspicious. And from the girl's point of view, this couldn't possibly get any more embarrassing. A few days later, the headmistress announces the Academy's newest project, a massive educational theme park called SH England. The entire place has been built to recreate ordinary commoner life. Since the Academy students have almost no real-world experience, the park will let them safely practice everyday situations before graduating. Basically, it's rich people trying to simulate being normal. Now that's a field trip you don't see every day. Before the trip begins, the headmistress reminds Kamito what has basically become his daily warning. His job is to guide everyone through the experience, and absolutely do not do anything inappropriate. At this point, they trust him about as much as a raccoon in a supermarket. Meanwhile, the girls are buzzing with excitement as they board the bus for their big field trip. Reiko and several classmates can barely wait to explore. Aika, on the other hand, is quietly practicing her restaurant order under her breath. She's determined to sound like a completely ordinary high school girl. The pressure is real. Kamito notices how nervous she is and gives her a little encouragement. He reminds her that she doesn't need to be perfect. She just needs to be herself. Soon, they arrive at what looks like an ordinary building. Nothing special, until a hidden elevator suddenly opens. The students write it down, and after a short presentation, the doors reveal an incredibly realistic modern city. Kamito looks around like it's just another Tuesday. Meanwhile, the girls stare in complete disbelief. Traffic lights, crosswalks, street signs. To them, it's basically a fantasy world. Rich girls discovering pedestrian crossings. Now that's peak anime. Their first lesson takes place inside a fast food restaurant modeled after a typical burger chain. Kojo explains how everything works. You order at the counter, wait for your number, then pick up your own food. Simple. The girls are shocked. Food that arrives in only a few minutes? This might as well be advanced technology. Finally, it's time for everyone to order. And suddenly, the confidence disappears. Aika has spent all morning memorizing her order. A teriyaki burger combo, with a 0-calorie cola. She's ready. She walks up to the counter, opens her mouth, and completely freezes. Her brain just rage quit. Before she can recover, Reiko accidentally steps forward first, creating a little confusion. Thankfully, Kojo calmly explains how the menu works. With a little encouragement from Kamito, Aika finally manages to place her order successfully. Mission accomplished. Meanwhile, Karen ignores all the food choices and immediately picks the meal that comes with a collectible toy. Priorities. After everyone gets their meals, Kamito notices something. Aika has quietly chosen to sit alone again. Same old habit. He realizes this is exactly what's been keeping her from getting closer to everyone else. So instead of letting it continue, he sits beside her. Kamito gently encourages Aika to eat with the rest of the class instead of isolating herself. Finally, she takes her first bite of the hamburger. Instantly, her eyes light up. She's completely amazed by how delicious something so simple can be. The other girls are just as fascinated. Fast food has officially become today's greatest discovery. Slowly but surely, Aika starts feeling more comfortable around everyone else. Back at the academy, Hakua goes looking for Kamito. Instead, she learns that he's away on the field trip. The little genius quietly looks disappointed. Poor Hakua. She really misses her favorite ramen chef. Meanwhile, the students continue exploring the theme park. Their next stop is an arcade pack with claw machines and rhythm games. Reiko manages to win a stuffed animal from one of the claw machines. Everyone immediately applauds her victory like she just won an Olympic medal. Then it's Aika's turn. She steps onto the dance machine and absolutely destroys it. Turns out she's ridiculously good. The other girls watch in amazement. Before long, they're all asking Aika to teach them, without even realizing it. She finally gets exactly what she's always wanted. Friends who genuinely admire her. Character development complete. Well, mostly. The next stop is a cafe. This time, Aika confidently walks up to the counter and orders the complicated coffee drink she memorized earlier. No hesitation, no panic, just smooth confidence. The girls are seriously impressed. Several of them even ask for Aika's phone number so they can keep in touch after today. Watching her laugh and chat naturally with her classmates, Kamito realizes she's finally becoming part of the group. Looks like the Commoners Club club lessons are actually paying off. Later, everyone heads out for a shopping trip. Aika enthusiastically explains modern fashion trends like she's been doing this her whole life. Karen quietly browses through the clothes she likes, but she's too shy to try anything on. Kamito notices. He encourages her to pick an outfit she normally wouldn't have the confidence to wear. After a little hesitation, Karen finally gives it a chance. And honestly, it looks great on her. Seeing herself in the mirror gives Karen a small boost of confidence. Of course, she'd rather fight a dragon than admit that out loud. By the time evening arrives, Aika and Reiko. That evening, Aika and Reiko end up sharing the same room. They still tease each other every chance they get, but this time, the conversation slowly turns more honest. For the first time, Aika opens about how she really feels. She asks Reiko to help her write a heartfelt message explaining why she's always kept her distance from everyone else. Reiko happily helps rewrite it. Together, they turn Aika's awkward words into something sincere. Soon after, Aika sends the message to the entire class. She admits she wants to leave the past behind, and hopes everyone will give her another chance to become friends. Thankfully, the message is warmly received. Just like that, a huge wall between Aika and her classmates finally disappears. The next morning, several girls invite Aika to eat lunch with them. Watching her happily join the group makes both Kamito and Reiko smile. She's come a long way from eating alone every day. Later, Kamito congratulates Aika on finally achieving her dream. She wanted friends, now she has them. Since the Commoners Club was originally created to help her fit in, Kamito says its mission has finally been completed. Which means, the club probably isn't needed anymore. Kamito thinks he's giving her good news. Instead, Aika suddenly goes quiet. She realizes the Commoners Club stopped being just a place to learn about ordinary life a long time ago. It became the place where she got to spend time with Kamito. As the elevator doors close and the two head to different floors, Aika quietly hides her disappointment. Meanwhile, Kamito has absolutely no idea he just dealt emotional damage. Bro has the emotional awareness of airplane mode. After the incident at the hot springs, Aika's new friends start asking why she and Kamito always seem so close. Caught off guard, Aika honestly admits she doesn't even know what kind of relationship they have. Fair enough, neither does the plot. Unfortunately, another misunderstanding happens during the commotion, because apparently this anime gets paid every time someone jumps to the wrong conclusion. The rumors spread across the academy at lightning speed. Before long, everyone is convinced Kamito and Aika are secretly dating. The next morning, Kamito notices students staring at him everywhere he goes. Again, at this point, he should start charging admission. Aika explains that the dating rumors have completely taken over the school. Even Karen hears about it, and instead of asking questions, she punches Kamito, then storms away. Poor guy, he's collecting punches almost as fast as he's collecting girls. Later, the members of the Commoners Club discuss whether they should clear up the misunderstanding once and for all. Seems like a reasonable plan. Unfortunately, the second Reiko shares her opinion, another argument instantly breaks out between her and Aika. These two could probably argue over the weather. Meanwhile, we learn something surprising about Kojo. Even though she works as a maid, she comes from one of the academy's prestigious families herself, which makes her role here unusual. Later that day, Aika excitedly shows Kamito a fortune-telling app that claims it can predict the future. Totally trustworthy, because nothing on the internet has ever lied before. Kamito immediately decides to have some fun. He starts making up completely ridiculous commoner traditions, and of course, Aika believes every single word. At this point, she's the easiest person on earth to troll. Soon, Reiko, Karen, and Hakuwa all join them. Now everyone wants their fortune read. The app says Reiko has the qualities of a great leader. Makes sense. She's basically class president material. Hakuwa's result says she's destined to become a brilliant scholar. Honestly, that app is just stating obvious facts. Karen's fortune describes her as serious, dependable, and secretly terrible when it comes to romance. Everyone immediately bursts into laughter. Karen stubbornly denies every word, which somehow makes it even more believable. Then someone discovers the compatibility test. Oh, this is where friendships go to die. Aika happily checks her compatibility with Kamito. The result comes back 80%. Not bad. Then Reiko tries it. Her score is even higher. She immediately starts teasing Aika with the results. Hakuwa doesn't seem to care much about her own score, but Karen nervously decides to check hers. The app initially gives her 0%. Her soul practically leaves her body. A moment later, they realize someone entered the information incorrectly. The score instantly changes to 100%. Karen's face turns bright red. The normally fearless swordswoman completely short-circuits while everyone else can't stop laughing. Meanwhile, Aika and Reiko somehow find another reason to start arguing. Again, at this point, it's basically their favorite hobby. Seeing another disaster about to unfold, Kamito quietly grabs Hakuwa and escapes the room to make another batch of potato pancakes. Bro chose pancakes over relationship drama. Honestly, that's probably the smartest decision he's made all season. The next morning starts just like every other day. Kojo walks into Kamito's room to wake him up as part of her maid duties. Kamito casually suggests that they could save everyone the trouble by just using a phone alarm. Kojo immediately shoots him down. With the most sarcastic smile imaginable, she says she'd much rather keep doing things her own way. Translation: nice idea. Absolutely not. Later, Kamito runs into Karen in the hallway. After remembering yesterday's compatibility test, Karen awkwardly asks him for another practice duel. Definitely not because she's flustered. Totally. During the sparring match, Karen accidentally slices the sleeve of Kamito's jacket. She instantly feels guilty and insists on repairing it herself. Karen brings him back to her room. To Kamito's surprise, the room is almost completely empty. The only decorations are a few tiny rabbit ornaments hidden around the room. Looks like the fearless swordswoman secretly has a cute side after all. While carefully sewing his jacket back together, Karen works with incredible precision. Kamito compliments both her sewing skills and her dedication. Then he casually says she'd make an amazing wife someday. Critical hit. Karen immediately turns bright red. Bro really keeps dropping accidental love confessions without realizing it. Meanwhile, Reiko, Aika, and Hakuwa all arrive outside Karen's room. They can clearly hear voices inside, but when they look around, nobody's there. Instant suspicion unlocked. The truth is much dumber. Kamito and Karen are hiding inside the wardrobe, trying to avoid yet another misunderstanding, because apparently closets are this anime's emergency escape plan. Unfortunately, Karen loses her balance. Both come crashing out of the closet, right in front of everyone. Yeah, there's no explaining this. Somehow, Kamito still tries. He quickly grabs Aika's phone and claims he was demonstrating a secret fortune-telling technique that uses martial arts poses. That might be the worst excuse he's ever invented. Aika isn't fooled for even 1 second. She immediately locks Kamito into a headlock. Justice has been served. That evening, Hakuwa quietly sits in front of her dinner, without eating a single bite. Her maid becomes curious. Looking closer, she notices Kamito's face doodled on the plate. Then she finds another handmade doll that looks exactly like him. At this point, the evidence is overwhelming. The maids reach one dramatic conclusion. Hakuwa has fallen in love. Instead of worrying, they get excited. The matchmaking committee has officially assembled. The next day, Kamito introduces the Commoners Club to another part of ordinary culture: maid cafes. The girls are completely confused. They honestly thought every maid worked exactly like Kojo. Kamito explains that cafe maids don't actually live with their customers. They simply act cheerful and play the role while working. He even admits he's always wanted to visit one himself. Hearing that, the girls immediately decide to recreate the experience. When Kamito walks into the room, everyone greets him with a loud, "Welcome home, master." Bro is living somebody's dream. Reiko throws herself completely into the role. She acts like a professional maid who's been doing this for years. Meanwhile, Aika is so embarrassed that she can barely get the words out. Kamito explains that the whole point of a maid cafe is making customers feel welcome while having fun. To demonstrate, he strikes a few classic maid cafe poses. The girls instantly burst into laughter. Not because they're funny, because Kamito looks ridiculous doing them. Honestly, somebody clip that. Outside the room, Hakuwa's real maids secretly watch everything unfold. The moment they realize how much Kamito loves maid cafes, they quietly begin plotting another scheme. Those maids are working harder than the actual main cast. The roleplay continues. The girls proudly serve Kamito an omelet with maximum enthusiasm. Meanwhile, Hakuwa is perfectly content entertaining herself with games. Kamito then explains that real maid cafes also include singing, performances, and other entertainment. Reiko immediately volunteers. She's determined to impress everyone. She takes a deep breath, starts singing, and absolutely destroys the cafeteria. Not in a good way. Her voice is so unbelievably terrible that it feels like the building itself is begging for mercy. The windows literally crack from the sound. Congratulations, she just unlocked the legendary weaponized karaoke. And before anyone can recover from the musical disaster, another argument starts brewing. Another argument instantly breaks out between Reiko and Aika, because apparently, they have a daily quota to meet. Meanwhile, Karen quietly stays beside Hakuwa, making sure the little genius doesn't get caught in the crossfire. Ot long after, Hakuwa's real maids arrive to clean up the disaster left behind by the maid cafe experiment. Watching them work, Kamito points out the biggest difference between real maids and cafe maids. Real maids take care of everyday responsibilities, while maid cafe employees are there to entertain customers and create a fun atmosphere. The girls are surprised that the word maid can mean two completely different jobs. Guess anime has more maid subclasses than an RPG. Later, while relaxing in the academy garden, Kamito runs into Hakuwa's head maid. She sincerely thanks him for spending so much time with Hakuwa. Then she offers to show him how the academy's professional maids actually work behind the scenes. Kamito happily accepts. Inside Hakuwa's laboratory, he watches the little genius dive into another one of her inspiration frenzies. As Hakuwa rapidly covers every surface with complicated equations, the maids work like a perfectly coordinated team. Some organize the room, others photograph every equation before Hakuwa forgets it. Honestly, they're carrying this entire research department. Once Hakuwa finally finishes, everyone heads outside to a giant sandbox built specifically to help her relax. relax. Apparently even world-class geniuses need a break. Kamito and Hakuo spend the afternoon building sandcastles together like two little kids. Meanwhile, the maids never stop watching them from a distance. Those women have the surveillance skills of the FBI. When lunchtime arrives, the matchmaking operation officially begins. The maids keep inventing increasingly obvious excuses for Kamito and Hakuo to share spoons, share plates, and even drink from the same cup. Subtlety has completely left the building. Kamito immediately realizes exactly what they're trying to do. All he can do is sigh and play along. Meanwhile, the maids celebrate every tiny interaction like they just witnessed the greatest romance in history. One shared spoon. Yes, we're making progress. Calm down. They're just eating lunch. The maids continue cheering every time Kamito and Hakuo share food or drinks. By now they're openly saying the two already look like a couple. Poor Kamito can't even take a bite without someone planning his wedding. Thankfully, their awkward little date gets interrupted when Kojo suddenly arrives with an urgent work request. The other maids immediately rush back to their duties. Kamito thanks Hakuo for spending time with him. Then the two say goodbye. That evening, the maids proudly celebrate what they consider a complete matchmaking success. Mission accomplished. According to them, anyway. During the conversation, another interesting detail is revealed. It turns out, Kojo was actually the one who originally recommended Kamito to become the Academy's official commoner. Looks like she accidentally created all of this chaos herself. The next day, Kamito secretly asks Aika to come to his room. Aika instantly starts overthinking. A private invitation? Could this finally be something romantic? Girl's imagination is working overtime. She nervously accepts, only to discover Kamito wants something completely different. He hands her a bright yellow outfit. Kamito claims it's the hottest fashion trend among ordinary teenagers and says wearing it will make her even more popular. Then Aika notices a strange word. Gets curious, she asks what it means. Kamito, being the professional troll that he is, completely makes something up. He tells her it's a famous greeting that every commoner uses. To make the lie even more convincing, he even shows her videos and pictures of comedian Dandy Sakano doing the famous gets pose. Poor Aika believes every second of it. Without questioning anything, she enthusiastically starts practicing the pose. Kamito finally realizes the prank has gone far enough. He's just about to admit the truth when Aika suddenly runs out of the room. Oh, this can only end badly. By the time Kamito catches up, the damage is already done. The entire class is wearing matching yellow outfits. Every single girl is happily shouting, "Gets," while striking the exact same pose together. Congratulations, Kamito. Your tiny joke somehow became the Academy's newest fashion trend. Bro accidentally invented a cult. Later that day, Reiko accidentally overhears Kamito talking on the phone. During the conversation, Kamito jokes that living in an academy full of girls can be exhausting. Sometimes, he even misses hanging out with his guy friends. Seems like a harmless comment. Unfortunately, Reiko misunderstands everything. She immediately assumes Kamito wants to leave the academy forever. Panicking, she gathers Aika, Karen, and the others for an emergency meeting. The mission? Figure out how to stop Kamito from transferring away. After several ideas, Aika proudly comes up with what she believes is a genius solution, or a completely insane one. According to her, if Kamito misses having guy friends, then everyone should just become more manly. Yeah, this plan is about to go exactly as well as you'd expect. Aika's master plan officially goes into action. If Kamito misses hanging out with guys, then everyone will simply become as masculine as possible. Flawless logic. The girls begin carefully studying everything Kamito does. They copy the way he stands, the way he walks, even his little habits. This is less of a research project and more of a wildlife documentary. Next, they borrow a giant muscle suit, because obviously, more muscles equals more manly. Soon they're wearing padded muscles, fake ponytails, and enough ridiculous accessories to start their own comedy show. But after looking at themselves, they decide something is still missing. Then someone has a brilliant idea. What if masculinity has a smell? After approximately 3 seconds of serious discussion, they conclude that the scent of grilled meat must be the secret. So, they literally cover themselves in yakiniku seasoning. At this point, there's no saving this plan. Proud of their hard work, the girls finally reveal their new manly appearances to Kamito. Kamito just stands there, completely speechless. After a long pause, he asks the only reasonable question. Why do you all smell like barbecue? The girls finally confess everything. They overheard his phone conversation. They thought he missed having male friends, so they tried becoming more like boys to convince him to stay at the academy. Kamito can't hold it anymore. He bursts out laughing. Then he quickly reassures everyone that he never had any intention of leaving in the first place. The girls freeze, then slowly realize this entire disaster happened because of one giant misunderstanding. Again, honestly, this academy survives on misunderstandings the way fish survive on water. A few days later, life finally settles back into its usual routine. As Kamito heads toward class, he notices Reiko quietly replacing the classroom's chalk before the teachers even arrive. Nobody asked her to do it. She simply wants to make everyone's day a little easier. Even the smallest things show just how thoughtful and responsible she really is. Later that evening, Kamito realizes realizes he accidentally left his pencil case behind. He heads back to the classroom to retrieve it. Inside, he finds Reiko still there. She's quietly preparing the classroom for the next day. The two end up watching the sunset together through the classroom windows. As they chat, they compare how different the evening sky looks in the city compared to the countryside. The peaceful atmosphere gives Reiko a little courage. She shyly asks Kamito if he'll help her practice flower arranging outside of class. Then, she asks something even more personal. She wants him to stop calling her by her family name and start using her first name instead. Yeah, that's anime language for your special. The next day, the Commoners Club gathers to decide their next activity. Reiko casually reminds Kamito about a promise they made earlier. Instantly, Aika becomes curious. Karen is just as interested, even if she tries not to show it. Everyone wants to know what the secret is, but Reiko simply smiles and refuses to tell anyone. Talk about building suspense. Before anyone can keep asking questions, Kamito and Reiko are suddenly summoned to the headmistress's office. Waiting there is Reiko's family, including her incredibly overprotective older brother, Masami. The moment Masami sees Kamito, he immediately decides he doesn't like him. Bro judged him before the opening dialogue finished. Even after the headmistress carefully explains why Kamito was chosen to attend the academy, Masami remains completely suspicious. Then, Reiko's mother drops a bombshell. Reiko's arranged marriage has officially been approved. In just a few days, she'll be leaving the academy. The room instantly falls silent. Reiko is absolutely devastated. Kamito quickly realizes something. She's only accepting the decision because she feels obligated to obey her family. Back at the Commoners Club, Kamito tells everyone what happened. Aika explains that arranged marriages are actually common for many girls at the academy. They're often expected to marry into powerful families after graduating. Seeing how unhappy Reiko really is, Kamito refuses to sit back and accept it. He decides they'll find a way to help her. Later, Masami secretly tries reaching out to the group. It looks like he wants to explain something, but he's interrupted before he gets the chance. Even without hearing his side of the story, everyone notices how empty the Commoners Club feels without Reiko around. Hakuya comes up with a solution. She modifies everyone's phones so they can contact Reiko even while she's away from the academy. That night, Aika finally calls her. During the conversation, Reiko admits what she's been hiding. She doesn't want to leave the academy. She doesn't want to abandon the friends she finally managed to make. Hearing that, Aika makes her a promise. No matter what happens, they'll find a way to stop the marriage. The following day, Kamito and the others discover something completely unexpected. Even Masami is against the arranged marriage. He's secretly asking the Commoners Club for help. Looks like the overprotective big brother just switched teams. Without wasting another second, everyone immediately starts planning a rescue mission. Yeah, this anime really went from learning how to order burgers to launching a full-on rescue operation. That night, the entire group quietly sneaks out of the academy. Unfortunately for them, Kojo catches them almost immediately. Busted. But after hearing that this is an official Commoners Club mission, she silently steps aside and lets them go. Deep down, even Kojo knows this is the right thing to do. Outside the academy gates, Masami is already waiting, along with two mountain-sized bodyguards who look like they bench press buses for fun. As they head toward the Arasugawa mansion, Masami explains the situation. He can't openly go against his family's decision, but he wants his little sister to choose her own future. Now that's the brother we were waiting for. When they finally arrive, the mansion is guarded like it's hiding national treasure. Luckily, everyone has a role to play. Karen charges straight into the guards and keeps them completely occupied, because diplomacy is optional when you have a sword. Aika helps clear the path forward. Meanwhile, Hakuya casually hacks her way through the mansion's security systems. Average Tuesday for the academy's biggest genius. Thanks to everyone's teamwork, Kamito reaches Reiko just before the engagement becomes official. Without hesitating, he bursts into the meeting and loudly objects to the arranged marriage. Reiko's mother calmly responds that the final decision belongs to Reiko herself. But Kamito points out the real problem. Reiko isn't choosing what she wants. She's choosing what she believes her family expects from her. Then Kamito reminds everyone of something important. The members of the Commoners Club all came from completely different worlds, different backgrounds, different personalities, different lives, yet they became true friends, simply because they chose to understand one another. Aika steps forward as well. She encourages Reiko to stop worrying about everyone else's expectations, and finally be honest about what she truly wants. Inspired by the support of all her friends, Reiko finally gathers the courage to speak. She declares that she doesn't want the arranged marriage. She wants to stay at the academy and remain with the friends who changed her life. Her mother warns that making this choice could mean giving up the comfortable future waiting for her. Even so, Reiko refuses to back down. For the first time, she's making a decision for herself. Kamito promises that no matter what happens next, she'll never have to face the future alone. And somehow, everything changes. To everyone's surprise, Reiko's father supports her decision. Even the other family eventually agrees to call off the engagement. Then comes one final twist. Reiko's mother reveals that she never truly wanted to force the marriage. She She simply wanted to see whether her daughter would fight for her own happiness, instead of silently accepting someone else's choice. Satisfied with Reiko's answer, she happily gives her blessing. Congratulations, the emotional damage was just a test all along. Kamito's heartfelt speech accidentally sounds way more romantic than he intended. To Reiko, it practically sounds like a confession. She immediately turns bright red. Meanwhile, the rest of the girls waste absolutely no time. They start teasing Kamito, then immediately begin arguing over which one of them likes him the most. Poor guy, he saved one relationship, only to unlock 4 more problems. Back at the academy, Kamito apologizes for causing another misunderstanding. Reiko simply smiles, then gently reminds him of the promise he made. From now on, she wants him to keep calling her by her first name. Looks like somebody earned a permanent relationship upgrade. Before long, life at the academy returns to its usual chaotic routine. The Commoners Club continues meeting. The misunderstandings keep multiplying, and Kamito somehow keeps surviving all of it. Finally, in the last scene, Kamito is summoned to the headmistress's office once again. There, he discovers that his ridiculous prank has spread across the entire academy. Yep, the whole school is doing it now. One harmless joke somehow became official campus culture. As the students happily strike the famous pose together one last time, the story wraps up with one final laugh, ending this hilarious and wholesome adventure on the perfect note.